Welcome. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Roll call, please, Gina.
Can't even find my page. Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion
Second
by
it.
Hill, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those- I guess that's everybody. Motion carried. Next is public hearing, and Bob is the only one that signed in. Public comment,
Yes, you
not
did.
public
Thanks.
hearing.
Appreciate it. Tonight, I'm going to introduce all of you to our new employee, Brent Reck. But first, I just want to talk about who is replacing. Chris Anderson, as many of you know, retired in August, I think August 1st, actually. Chris was the original Park and Rec employee. He's been here since the whole thing started. So everything that we own has a handprint, a footprint, a Chris print somewhere. So 40 years he served the city. I think he started in the street department, as a summer helper and
June 6, 1976.
there you go, 1976. So over 40 years Chris had in. We certainly can't, and faithfully, I mean, if you could continue to carry on sick time, Chris rarely ever took a day off. So was a great employee. We wish him the best of luck. He's probably doing what he likes the most, fishing. So if you need the local hot spots, please give Chris a call. So, but we want to make sure and give him some props for everything he's done for us in our department. So. Yep. Our new employee, come on up, Brent. Brent Reck. Brent started with us on November 13th. So he's had his hands full of getting everything that we've done and everything that we do. Brent comes to us from Winthrop, Iowa, and then I'll let Brent talk a little bit about some of his past background.
First of all, thanks to Al and Bob for giving me this opportunity. I just recently moved to Independence. So I just recently moved to Independence about 6 or 7 months ago. Before this job, I was at Big Rock Golf Course superintendent for this last year. Before that, I was superintendent for a couple little smaller courses. I've worked at a couple of minor league baseball facilities, stadium ops, and on the field. I really love this city so far, being here. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. It's a privilege, and everybody's been really nice and helping me kind of understand what needs to go on, and hopefully I look forward to being here for a long haul. So thank you.
Sounds good. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Luckily for Brent, he gets to start during the slow time of the season, so we get a lot of time to acclimate him. Thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Next on the agenda is motion to accept and approve the consent agenda that approves the following: the minutes of the November 13th, 2017 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Kurt, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Next, I have a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Motion from O'Laughlin, seconded by
Listen.
Hill. Didn't see no hands or anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, under petitions from the public, Independence Police Department, Officer Lau. Good to see you again.
It's good to see everybody, too. Just to bring you guys up to speed, I'm kind of working on the last couple properties, trying to get those finished up. And luckily, I see we're blessed with some nice weather, at least for the next week to 10 days anyway. before it starts to get cold. So we're gonna try to get those properties taken care of, but I still do urge people to call in and complain when they see something, because once the weather starts getting cold, it'll kind of be on a complaint basis, and we'll also still be keeping track of those properties and watching the ones that we constantly deal with to make sure they're not getting bad again, so we can hit them right away in the spring. Between now and next month's council meeting, everybody will probably see another press release come out just in regards to snow removal and things like that, snow and ice on sidewalks. You know, seems a little bit early to start talking about it, but try to get that out there before we get into the December weeks, so that way people are aware of how we're gonna operate. So, other than that, I didn't know if anybody else has had anything since our last meeting. Anybody, questions, concerns?
I don't think so.
Not aware of it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Next, I have Kent and Daniel Young for hunting in city limits. A motion to approve the requests vetted by Kent and Daniel Young and to waive the City of Independence code as follows. Do you need me to read all of that, or you all see that in front of you?
I've read it.
Mayor, I would ask that if you are going to grant this, which I understand has been done in the past, there should be a stipulation that it's on the 2017 bow hunting season. I think that it's something that council will want to take action on annually if it comes up, as opposed to a blanket coverage, which could be insinuated without putting a timeline on it. So I think if you put the 2017 bow season on it, it's very clear when they're allowed to do that.
Okay. And this is on somebody else's property, so that's already been checked out, that that person's okay?
We do not have permission or the ability to grant permission to hunt on their property. We have the ability to allow them to hunt
In the
in
city
city
limits?
limits.
Okay.
Anything that is not on their personal properties between them and the property owners,
Okay,
that's outside of our control.
okay.
I've had 2 calls on this from property owners in the southeast. Both of them were less than enthusiastic about the prospect of this, as I am.
I, for one, think it's a great idea, and it's something I know Waterloo's done occasionally. I know Marion's done it. Tonight at 5:15, pulling into my driveway, there were 2 deer in my front yard. And it's a huge issue in town. And if we can eliminate some of the nuisance, it would be great, in my opinion.
I would agree with John. The deer population is really, I think, getting out of hand. I think I just read an article in the Courier about the high number of deer accidents this year.
But have we had accidents in town? I mean,
doubt
have
it.
we, huh?
I doubt it.
No, I doubt it. And I don't really see them as being a nuisance, but
They
I do understand there's a pile of deer.
eat arborvitaes, they destroy gardens, a lot of plants.
Well, yeah, we're right on the edge. of that, too.
So do rabbits.
They don't get up.
Does it matter, though,
Jump on your car, though.
for the area that
Or at
they're
least they
planning on
damage when they do.
hunting is farther from your house? Does that make a difference in getting the population
They
down?
migrate.
Oh, okay.
The-
I'm not a deer hunter, sorry, guys.
Saturday, John, I'll work on getting whatever I can.
If we give them permission to hunt in town, and we're proud, we think that they're just gonna hunt on a certain piece of property, but you just said they could hunt anywhere in town with
We-
permission.
Right, we don't have the ability to grant permission
Yeah.
on property other than their own personal property or on city property. They have not asked to hunt on city property, which I think would be problematic. So it is basically private property. The only comment I'll make for or against, communities have outlawed hunting for really good reasons. And I support that. However, very frequently, communities come up with, oh my gosh, we have to have a special deer hunting season because the deer population in city limits is getting out of hand. We have issues. Here's a case where we're not issuing a special permit for it. We're not changing the season. We're just saying, here's somebody that wants to hunt on a specific parcel or in a certain area of town. It kind of accomplishes, to a certain extent, the same thing. It is bow hunting only. It is not in any way rifle. I mean, it is specific to bow hunting, which in city limits, I think, is also very significant. I mean,
Don't you think
that's.
that would set precedent for rabbit hunting and squirrel hunting and everything else? I know there
Well,
was there was just hundreds of rabbits around town this spring. I thought about hunting them myself, actually, but I didn't.
We did this a couple of years ago, I think up in the southeastern part of town. We had somebody make a request. To my knowledge, hopefully if we approve this, you'll be luckier than they were. I'm thinking they didn't get anything. So,
Then there's always that person that makes a mistake between the family dog and a deer, you know.
Now, you're not waiving common sense or logic. You're only waiving the city ordinance that allows them
I'm
to
not
use a
waving
bow.
it. Well, I'm looking at it, just looking at it.
The issue that you have is whether or not you waive it for bow season. If somebody wants to make a request for rabbits, I guess you'll have to deal with that under a separate request. I don't see
Is it just these two guys that are gonna do it, or can anybody do it on that land then?
just these two. You're giving Kent and Daniel Young a specific waiver to do it, to do bow hunting within city limits, and again, only on private property.
how much experience do you gentlemen have in bow hunting?
I've been bow hunting for 30 years, and then, of course, my son has been bow hunting together a long time, 15, and 12.
Okay.
And it's specifically, we have about 3 acres of timber on the backside of our property.
You might need to come to the podium so the audience or anybody else can hear you. Just have to introduce yourself and your address, and you can speak for both of you if you want.
Okay, my name is Daniel Young, and I live at 112 6th Avenue Southeast, but the property that in question is at 802 9th Avenue Southeast. The property that we're talking about is, like was mentioned, is a 3-acre parcel of a larger block of timber in the southeast side, which is all floodplain and uninhabited, but still technically inside city limits. And as was mentioned, we've seen a lot of destruction of our trees that we've planted in our parents' yard, and also the shrubs and stuff from mainly the deer. They like to eat the shrubs in the winter and the bark on the trees, and also the buds in the spring. But as far as the safety aspect of it, the area of the property where we would be hunting, obviously we wouldn't be hunting in the yard. It would be in the timber. It's over 150 yards from the closest inhabited structure, which would be my parents' home, and that's where it would be. And it's only myself and my father that bow hunt or would even have permission to bow hunt on the property.
Okay.
So there'd be no other properties like to the east of you further?
There are properties, and I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard that there are people that hunt on those properties, and I'm not aware of that. I do know of one other person that had.
We were told we couldn't run it anymore because it's in the city limits.
Yeah, and.
We party hunt, we
Okay,
march.
well, this is just bow hunting, so I don't know. I'm not aware of that. We did talk to one guy that had said that he had come to the council and gotten permission for the same area behind Terrace Drive, which is in the same vicinity.
So you set up a stand, or you guys?
Yes, tree stand. No, we would hunt from tree stand, which is elevated, anywhere from 12 to 20 feet. So, as far as safety concerns for shooting, be all towards the ground, and also it's a bow, so it's not traveling nearly like a firearm would.
Is this something you're going to be back every year requesting?
Probably, yes, sir.
Is there a limit as to how many you can get?
Oh,
bow
well,
hunting?
so what it would be is, we both have an any sex tag, which would be a buck or a doe, so there's 2 tags. And then there's also, we both have an antlerless tag for the county for bow. So that's, and also with an antlerless tag, when you shoot an antlerless deer in the fall, the potential for what you're culling from the herd is actually probably 3 instead of 1, because in the fall they is the rut, and they would be pregnant, and most deer drop 2 fawns. So you're technically taking care of 3 deer out of the population as opposed to 1. So in our opinion, it could be an effective way to mitigate some of this. And when we were talking about deer, or when you were talking about deer getting hit by a car, we actually, a couple years ago, right down the road from my parents' driveway, about 150 feet, there was a deer that was hit and killed by the snowplow. So, and that's right inside city limits.
I think the deer are in the city limits, I'll tell you.
Oh,
Don't
I've
wanna-
had one, I was out for a walk one night and just had one gallop across the road in front of me. They're not too shy.
No.
I know several years ago, they were even asking people to, because there was such a growth, I mean, so many deer, and there was so many accidents even on the highway, that are we back up to that figure again, to the
I
fact that
can't
we're
really
getting?
speak to that, but I do know that locally, it seems like over the past few years, we've seen, I mean, on any given night in the winter when there's snow on the ground, you can look out the back window into the timber, and you'll see 20 to 25 deer a night just moving back and forth through there. And there's no, as far as hunter predation or whatever, obviously there's the natural predation of coyotes or whatever, but they're born back there, they live their whole lives back there, and they die of old age, so it's quite populated.
And they actually bed down in Greenlee's property across the street from my house. At night, there'll be 6 to 10 of them in there.
Do people
Every
feed them? Is that like they're like stray cats, and that's why they stick around, because people
No.
are feeding them, or what?
A lot of
They usually
attractive
just go
shrubs
where
and,
the path of least resistance, so they find inside city limits, they have the least amount of pressure as far as, what's worrying or scaring them, and that's usually where they stick around.
Huh,
And it gets worse in the late winter because of the shotgun seasons push the deer farther into town
Yeah.
because of pressure and getting shot at.
yeah, I imagine. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Do
I'd make a motion to allow it for the 2017 season, bow hunting season.
Okay, do I hear,
Second it.
hear a second?
Deb?
Yep, okay. You need a roll call for this?
Yeah. Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
No.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Next on the agenda is the Chamber of Commerce Jingle on Main, which is motion to approve the Independence Chamber of Commerce 2017 Jingle on Main, December 8th, 2017, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m., and to waive compliance of the City of Independence. Again, there's several codes. If you want me to read them, I will, but they're in front of you, so. This is the same ones that we have done every year in order to have this event.
I would make the motion to approve this, but I would like to ask that, starting next year, you mark your calendar and you get council approval before it appears in the newspaper.
I do apologize for that. We had an overzealous volunteer jump the gun a little bit.
And also, we do need to have you contact the police department so they can check things out beforehand too, so, yeah.
So I make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Hill, second by Lenius. Any other discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a petition from the public, Rob Hocken, for a motion to approve a concert activities in August of 2018 and to waive compliance with city codes as follows. Again, these are on your agenda. These are the same ones we use for,
The celebration committee would use the same waivers for code. They would like to use the band shell. They have talked with the Parks Department and reserved the band shell. He did not give me the specific date, so I don't have that for you, and I don't see Rob here, so. He was working on, he thought he had according to Rob, a major band that was in the area for another concert that would be traveling through. He was going to try and book them in that same time frame or the same window from a county fair to be here for this. Two things that you need to be aware of. The noise ordinance, he has, I mean, they are talking about midnight versus the 10 o'clock. And there is no reference to liquor license, so he would have to work on a, dram shop and liquor license, which is not included in this part of it. Not a big deal on these waivers, but just things to.
We're going to get the conflict of the noise at midnight.
That's why I'm making sure that everybody's aware of that, that concern. I think the last time Rob wanted to do a concert, we talked about 10 o'clock versus
Yeah.
and that one I think was an 11 o'clock that he was talking about. But this is in August, depending on when in August, whether or not you're concerned about the time of day. But before you approve it, it's either midnight, or if you want to approve a different time or leave it at the 10 o'clock, I guess you would have that.
What was it this year or last year we talked about this, and
Last
it
summer.
was
Last summer.
right on the heels of the county fair or something?
Yes.
His concert fell through. He had two bands that he was working on. They fell through. He pulled the plug on it sometime, I guess, right after the fair, during the fair time frame where he wasn't able to lock the bands in. He's got enough lead time now where he's very confident that he can get a big-name band to come in, which is fine. He does need these waived if he's going to do that, which would allow him similar access to what the Celebration Committee uses as far as the.
There's two bands?
Well, no, this one would be one. Last summer, he had talked about two different ones. This is for one night this year. Last year, we had talked about two nights, so just some of the differences. But again, having access to the band shell, the streets, blocking off the streets, so like Celebration Committee, they have that.
We didn't
part.
go along with 11 o'clock last time, did we?
I think we did.
Yeah.
think
We
so.
did go. with
Last time
11?
we did
think
11
so.
o'clock. You did have
This time he's
some,
got it till midnight, not 11.
you did have some pushback the last time, just
We're always going to have.
I'd make the
pushback.
motion for 10 at 10 o'clock and keep it the same hours we've had down there.
I'll second it.
Hey, I think we ought to talk about
Okay.
it first.
I have a couple of questions. One, the city helps out with the 4th of July and the barbecue and those events, I think, because they're volunteer and they're basically promoting the city,
Nonprofit.
nonprofit. In this situation, I can't remember, did we say that he's going to need his fences, he's going to need the same kinds of things that. But I
Security.
don't think the city should be doing them for free or providing law enforcement, those kinds of things.
What we had talked about was, if he was not going to take, last year he was trying to take advantage of the Celebration Committee having the fencing already set up. If we do this for a for-profit, we're charging. They have the ability to do it themselves. If our guys are doing it, no, we're charging for that time. Law enforcement, that's a separate issue. He's responsible for security. We will always have police on duty. Dustin and the department can talk about whether or not they have to have additional officers on based on the size of the event, but generally, they're going to be in charge of private security as well.
And didn't we not waive camping for the rash ride group that was down there? Wasn't that a point of contention?
We did not waive it for Rash Ride. We did waive it for Brubicue. As far as the camping
Right.
goes.
For the vendors only, though, wasn't
For
it?
vendors.
Well, that's what this is.
That's what this is, too.
This is for just the vendors overnight also.
Well, I do think one thing we got, this time it's one night. We can see what kind of operation. It's not like we were willing to take a chance on 2 nights, and here, if the first night doesn't work out, we're done. It's.
I think we ought to, has anybody talked to Robbie, to Rob, or has he given you any information on these things that he does in other towns? Do they go till midnight? What kind of success rate? you know, my only thought is that shutting it down at 10 o'clock, maybe, you know, constrain it a little bit. Personally, I think, and I know we're going to get pushback. We'll probably get pushback from 10 o'clock. And we're always going to get pushback from the people down there. But as a council, and I don't really think that it's one for the other, but we were extremely gracious with, you know, our fireworks stuff. And I think one night of going till midnight, if it really makes a difference in the success of it, that our people should be, you know, willing to accept that.
Yeah.
I do. I think sometimes we let a few people dictate everything, and I would like to know from Robbie how other towns do this as far as timing and everything else.
And where location's at for him might be a different thing, too.
Yeah, but you know something, a handful of people are always going to be upset about something, Deb.
You don't live
can't
that
let,
way, Mike.
no, I don't, but I live up by the racetracks, and I don't complain about that.
But they're supposed to quit at 10 o'clock at night, too.
Yeah, they're supposed to have mufflers on them cars, too.
Okay, that has nothing to do with
I
what
know,
we have.
but I
Mike brought it up.
Oh, you didn't have to add.
So,
I have
one thing
another
that,
question here, Al. We got a motion and a second for 10 o'clock. If that doesn't pass, can we make another motion? Or is the whole thing dead?
you have the right to make another motion if you choose what's in front of you. Again, we're not recreating the wheel here. We're taking what has worked for the Celebration Committee and putting it in front of you. That's significant on a couple of accounts. One is the overnight camping. If you don't want it, please take that out. We're not suggesting that or promoting it. We're just trying to not reinvent the wheel. To Mike's point, I think there's a compromise here. If you consider music stopping no later than 11, having the park emptied by midnight, because no matter what time the music stops, you're going to have people that are in the park. It's going to take you a while to get them out. I think you want a buffer in there, so you may want to consider stopping the music at a certain time, having the park vacated by, in this case, midnight or whatever time you pick. I think that's a middle ground. It isn't the 10 o'clock that we have currently, but I think it helps address some of that noise issue.
Well, it depends on what he advertises. If he was going to advertise 8 to midnight, then that would, I mean, I don't know.
He's going to have to set the music up
Yeah.
within whatever restrictions you set, because it is in the park. So if you say your music's done at 11, the music's done at 11.
Sure.
I mean, it's what you set it up as.
And he's paying to use the park or use the band shell and stuff. He's got an expense there. And then he also does know about the fence and everything. I mean, the regulation is,
Well, if he's going to serve alcohol, the fence is significant if he's selling tickets to the concert and if he's selling alcohol. I mean, that's where you have to have the fence. If he's not doing either of those, I'm not sure he needs a fence. By the way, I know he is, but, I mean, that's really why we have the fence.
I guess I have a little problem did he know this was going to be on the agenda tonight?
Yes, sir.
And if he's not here, we're speculating on a lot of things. I guess I would just as soon table this until he can come and answer questions himself. That's my feeling.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea.
That would require a second.
I'll make.
okay, but we already
Well, we
have
already
one
have a
motion.
motion.
If you have a motion to table, you can take that motion with the second, vote on it, and it's tabled until the next meeting or later in this meeting.
We don't have to vote on the first motion about the 10 o'clock thing?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll
I'd
second the
make the
table.
motion, to table it till he can be present personally.
You know, yeah,
I'll
and
second it.
Austin has seconded that. So we only need to vote on the tabling part of it.
Whether or not we
And then let
table.
him know, and make sure he needs to be here before this has come up. So, because we have lots of questions that we don't have answers for.
Well, and the one thing on the camping, I don't see a problem if it's vendors staying overnight, because they're probably going to have a trailer that they're going to be staying in. And if they were working till 11 or midnight, they can't pack up all their stuff and get out of there
Right.
in a reasonable amount of time. So I think that's a reasonable request.
We just don't want Wadena, which somebody in our audience could testify to what Wadena would have been like. it worked for about 30,000 people, and it worked for the 180 of us that live there too.
Okay, we do have a motion to table this till the next meeting. A second. Need a roll call on that, too?
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. I think that's a wise decision.
Al, will you reach out to Rob and request his presence at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm really surprised he wasn't here. Okay, hearings and ordinances. Chapter 25 Airport Board, third and final reading. A motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the third and final time.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Grover.
I'll second it.
Second by O'Laughlin. Roll call.
Vaughn,
No.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
No.
Lennius.
Yes.
Motion carried. Next, Chapter 55 Animal Protection Control, public hearing and first reading. Motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to hold the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by
I'll second it.
Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried, and we are now in public hearing in regards to Chapter 55 Animal Protection and Control. Did we receive anything?
I haven't
Email or
received
mail?
anything in writing, though.
Okay, is there anyone, I don't see anybody out there wanting to talk? Okay,
Is this is the one, isn't it, Al, that we're talking about having it go directly to the court system, as opposed to the council writing the law, being the judge and being the jury?
Right, and I guess I'd invite David to,
Yeah, in combination with this and 56. The thought there is essentially, yeah, you put it in a magistrate's hands instead of the council. It's a political decision ultimately whether you guys want to do that, but right now, the way the ordinance is written, it's fairly confusing in terms of what procedures the city actually has to take, just because there's kind of a catch-all at the end of Chapter 56. So this would put it in line with other violations of the code, which all go to the magistrate rather than to the council.
so Chapter 55, because we're talking about 55 and 56, Chapter 55 specifically directs this action to the magistrate's office.
Yes, yeah. And, well, and the difference between them, let's see. Yeah, yep, you have it right there.
I think there's a different issue on 56 that we want to address, but in 55, that's really the meat of the ordinance.
Right.
Well, it's repealing that part of it to be replaced by 56. I
Yep.
think,
Right.
if I understand it right.
Yes.
so we're amending Chapter 55.12, where it makes it go to the magistrate.
Well, and before, it was really, if they came to the council and we made a decision they didn't like, it went to the magistrate anyway. It just
Yeah.
took up more time in the process.
Yeah, they would be, the way to think of it, although this isn't a perfect analogy, but anytime you have an issue with administrative action, challenging something with the DOT, for example, you have to run it all the way up the line with the DOT before you can go into court. Yes, this was creating an administrative remedy first before they would go to a magistrate. If you would pass this, it would go to the magistrate first, and then if they wanted to appeal it from there, they could go into district court. Just takes you out of that chain of events.
Any other discussion? I need a motion to close the hearing, receive and file oral and written comments.
So moved.
Motion by Kurt, seconded by O'Laughlin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Need a motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the first time.
Make the motion.
Motion by Grover, seconded by?
Second.
Kurtz. A roll call, please.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next, Chapter 56, Dangerous and Vicious Animals. I need a motion to receive, file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, seconded by
I'll second it.
O'Laughlin. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Now I need a motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing.
I did have a question here when I read this. Weren't we going to put something in here about we would make an effort?
We discussed that. We're waiting for, I'm going to let David address the issue specifically under 5602 subsection 3.3. Or is it 56031G?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And is this with their ability to kill the dog, essentially, when it's out in public? Yeah. So the way you have it written right now.
Excuse me, could you lean into the microphone? Because
Yeah,
I've got a
sure.
feeling the audience isn't hearing what you're saying.
I got a bad habit of that, I apologize. The way you have it written right now requires a finding that a dog has to be acting in violation of 5601 subsection 3. So this is not, if you would pass it, allowing police officers to shoot any dog at large. It would have to be a dog that's acted vicious, which means essentially it's attacked a human or attacked another domesticated animal. So it would be in that circumstance that they could act, that they could put the dog down. The other thing that would be required to be found is that the dog was creating a hazard to life or property. So you could put it in there that they have to make an effort to contact the owner. That wouldn't be in line with the state code. The state code essentially says if there are dangerous dogs there, then police officers are allowed to put them down. The state code also says that cities are free to legislate in this area as they see fit. But again, passing it as you have it now, this is only for vicious dogs, not for all dogs. So you wouldn't be passing carte blanche, dogs at large could be killed. Does that halfway answer it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they still make an attempt to catch the dog, but if they aren't able to because of its being vicious or the way it's acting, and that's the only thing they can do.
Yeah, you do have that requirement if they can't corral it. So the only thing you're not adding in is when there is a vicious dog out there that they're searching for the owner, they're still making an effort to capture it first. So
Didn't we discuss with the chief getting a air rifle or dart it?
We discussed having a dart gun, which we do have. The issue that we have is
The medication?
The medication that goes in there is considered a narcotic, and they have to be issued that, and they have to get that at the time they need it. They can't have it on hand or stored, is really the issue that they're running into. So they can have the gun, they can have the dart, but it doesn't do any good. It just kind of irritates the vicious animal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we're talking here, they're up at Courthouse Park and the dog has got a kid treed in one of the swing sets and the police officer comes up and the dog starts charging him and there's no way to catch it. The officer has the right here to protect himself and the person the dog was attacking.
yeah, and it'd be making that explicitly clear. That would be, I guess, more on the extreme side of circumstances, but that would be a good example. I could think in all of our cities, the only time I've ever been asked about this in terms of wanting to do something day of, a lady was in the emergency room, and I got the call essentially saying, can we do this? It wasn't for Independence, it was for a different town. But I haven't run into another situation where officers haven't been able to corral a dog. That one, a lot of blood loss, a lot of stitches, stuff like that. So you're still going to have a level of officer restraint that I don't think you can legislate for necessarily. I mean, officers are going to use discretion, and I think most cops are going to try and catch a dog anyway. I think they're going to make their best effort on that. This is just making it clear that if it meets the criteria for viciousness, which is, again, having attacked a person or having attacked another animal, that they can take that step without having to try and find the owner. Yeah.
Assistant Chief Meyer, you have anything you'd like to?
I'd be happy to interject.
Good.
Step right up.
Contrary to what a lot of the public may think, we don't go out and hunt dogs down and shoot them. We always try to make an effort to locate the owners and to catch the dog if possible. My personal experience here a couple months ago was up at storage units in the northeast part of the city. Lady called up and says, I have 2 dogs up here by the storage unit, and they appear to be strays. Can you come get them? Because she wanted to get into her storage unit. They were fine with her initially, and then they became aggressive towards her. I went up there, and initially they were fine with me. They were of a pit bull variety, which I own one of my own. And so I wasn't scared of them or anything. And I was in plain clothes like I am now, so it couldn't be a uniform issue, as some people think. The dogs were fine with me initially, and as soon as I opened up the door to my vehicle to let them in, they became aggressive and began circling me. And I did make it back to my vehicle. I thought that was the right thing to do at the time. I did draw my gun in case they did attack, because that's what I'm going to do. And I was fortunate, got back in my vehicle, got Officer McFerrin to come into the area and keep an eye on them. I made contact with the chief. I was directed to get the air rifle along with the darts from the office. I went out to the local veterinarian center, and they would not provide us with a narcotic to go into the dart. That's their choice. I don't have control over that. Fortunately, I had a couple of gals or staff members that work out there said they would come out and try on their own, and they brought food, treats, whatever. And apparently they were, they were more friendlier to the females or the women than they were to the male, me. So, and I might add, if somebody brought me food and treats, I might be happier with them as well. So
You don't
with
care
that-
what gender they are, if they bring you food, you're happier.
So, with that said, they were caught peacefully and taken into the vet center, and they were strays, apparently dumped off in our community. And I don't know if they were disposed of humanely or if they were relocated to another no-kill facility. I don't know. But the owners were never located, because if they were, they surely would have been cited by me.
But you still made every effort to try to
Right.
catch the dogs or do something
Right,
rather
and
than
I was.
first choice was pull your rifle
And I knew
or
that
a
school
gun.
was gonna be out within the hour, and there was a lot of children in that neighborhood, so I knew we had to do something soon. That's not always a possibility when you have one officer on, and if an officer is going to be attacked or sees someone else going to be attacked, they need to take the lethal option. And you don't have a lot of choice when you only have seconds to react in that situation. So we're not out hunting strays. All of us are either dog owners or, prefer the breed, and we don't go out and shoot dogs just because we want to or have to or whatever. It's usually when it's an attack situation.
Thank you. So you think it's a good ordinance to pass on, don't you?
Professionally, yes. Personally, yes. I think it needs to be there to protect the officers and when they are doing their job professionally, I think it needs to be there. I think it needs to coincide with the state law as well. You're always going to have those incidents where maybe an animal was shot mistakenly or whatever. I've been part of that years before in the past. The dogs were aggressive. I shot it with a dart gun and I killed it
With a dart gun?
with a dart gun. It was a bad situation. It was a 20-year-old family dog, and it was a bad situation, and I hated doing it, and it just the way it turned out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion?
If there's no more comments, I'm waiting for a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral written comments.
So moved.
Second.
By Kurt, second by Lennius. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, I need a motion to receive, file, and consider adopting the ordinance for the first time.
So moved.
A second.
Motion by Kurt, second by Hill. Roll call.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius.
Yes.
Lon,
Yes.
Grover.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next on the agenda, a public hearing on proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $2,100,000. Need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kurt, second
Second.
by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Motion to hold the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by
Second.
Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing.
This public hearing is to consider the refinancing, refunding of existing revenue, sewer revenue bonds, and action following to reissue the bonds at a lower interest rate.
So it would not change our debt level, it would simply be a
Just-
refinance.
It does not change our debt level. We do have some mandatory reserves under the current language that would be put into principal payments, so we would buy the principal down by a couple $100,000. In addition, we would reduce our annual debt service by $55,000 roughly because of the lower interest rate. The term of the bonds would be the same length, it's just that we're paying less interest.
Any other discussion? And I need a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz, second by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next, we're going into a resolution taking additional action on proposal. Need a motion to approve a resolution taking additional action on the proposal to enter into a sewer refunding loan agreement.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
O'Laughlin, second by Kurtz. Roll call, please.
Kurt,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius.
Yes.
Lon,
Yes.
Grover.
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is carried. Next, CDBG Water Project Public Hearing. I need a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Was it O'Laughlin? Was it?
O'Laughlin.
No, first was
O'Laughlin.
O'Laughlin.
Then Hill.
second by Hill, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Motion to hold in the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz, seconded
Second.
by Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing in regards to this.
We do have Jacob here from Intercog. I don't, if you want to come up.
Pass these copies around.
As also known as Jacob Jaden, I'm with the Iowa Northland Regional Council of Governments, or INTERCOG. We are the regional planning entity that serves the Buchanan County in the city of Independence. We have been working with the city on putting together potentially a community development block grant, that CDBG application for some proposed water system improvements. Just a little bit of background. CDBG originates from the Housing and Urban Development, so it's federal dollars. Cities over $50,000 receive an annual allocation. Cities under that threshold can compete for CDBG funds through a state program that's administered by IEDA, the Iowa Economic Development Authority. So that's the pot of money that we're looking at. The city of Independence is eligible for $800,000 just based on population. The scope of this project is much smaller than that. That's just kind of giving you an idea. It's tiered based on the size of the population. The maximum ask for CDBG funds is a 1-to-1. So for every dollar in grant funds you're requesting, you have to at least be putting $1 in local funds in to fund the project. So that's just a little bit of background on that. One other caveat, which is, explains why we're involved, is one of the requirements of the state CDBG program is that you have a grant administrator to basically oversee the funds and the project. Like I said, these are federal monies that are then allocated to the state, and the state allocates them to cities. With those federal dollars becomes a whole array of regulations and requirements. That is why you're required to have a competent grant administrator to ensure that the city is in compliance with these. So the need, or the nature of the proposed activities, we're looking at a 10 by 10 block area in the southwest quadrant of the city, west of the Wapsie River, south of First Street, north of 10th Street, and then east of Liberty Trail. So that's the general area that we're looking at. Engineering report that was completed by Crawford identified there's a number of deficiencies in the water system, particularly to the valves and the inability to shut it down in the case of breaks. So the project scope includes valve and hydrant replacement and various other improvements to improve the maintenance of the operating system, both the drinking water to the potable water to the residences, as well as for fire safety. So that's kind of the project. The reason the city, or we've been discussing this with the city about this target area, is the way you can qualify for the allocation for the funds that fund water projects through serving low to moderate income. Just in general, citywide, the LMI rate is 44%. To be eligible to even apply, it has to be at least, the project area has to be at least 51%. So it was back in September of 2016, the city did an LMI survey, and this target area came in at 53%. So that's why this area of town is able, for this specific area, we could apply for CDBG funds as opposed to a citywide project. You'd have to do a survey that shows at least 51%. So that's kind of why, a CDBG, why we're localized on this project. And then the funding sources there. So like I said, about approximately half would come from CDBG. The total project cost, and it was on the second page that I handed out there, has kind of it broken down. So just the engineering, contingency, construction, that was, cost estimate came in at $152,242. And then in order to submit this for a CDBG grant request, we would take that and split it 50-50. And then for the grant administration, the grant INTERCOG in this case, we charge a fee for that administration. Typically, you know, these are, like I said, the city's looking for 800,000. So that gives you an idea of the scope of these projects. They can, you know, be multi-million-dollar projects down to smaller projects this size. Unfortunately, the federal requirements don't change with the size of the project. You still have to meet all the federal procurement requirements, all the, you know, regulations, Davis-Bacon, things like that. So the way the cost is broken down, we propose not to exceed $25,000 for the grant administration. Typically, that's all wrapped into the CDBG request. However, only 10% of a CDBG request can be allocated towards administration. So long story short, about 17,000 of that would come from local funds just to satisfy that requirement. So that's kind of the caveat, you know, a little difference on this project as opposed to, you know, we see a typical project. That's just because of the scope, because this is a target area that meets the LMI requirements. The cost is just less than, you know, say a multi-million-dollar sanitary sewer project for the entire city. I've said a lot. Does anyone have any questions before I go any further?
I do. On this, the city is paying looks like $10,000 more than CDBG would be paying. Plus, that number probably where we have the construction at $112,000. If we did the Bacon-Davis wage, that's probably going to add another $12,000 to $15,000 to the project with those wages.
Yeah.
So that's $25,000 there.
Well, this was not calculated using Davis-Bacon wage scales?
No, this number was current contracting expectation, similar projects. Nothing wrong with that, but Davis-Bacon was not used in that number.
And the $25,000 administrative fee, like you said, that's just, basically, we're paying $17,400 on a fairly small project for administrative fees, so you can come out and check the box.
Well, it's, I mean, it's a requirement of the program.
I know,
Yeah,
I
if you
know, I'm
want
not,
to-
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I did have a conversation with Jacob and Brian Schoen at Intercog last week, and we talked about this based on the size of the project. The scope is significantly smaller than we anticipated when we started. That's a good thing, but it makes the CDBG application a lot more problematic, not just for the application. These guys would love to write the application. They're more than willing to. They're very competent to administer the grant, but I'm not sure it makes sense for this size of a project. And not to take away from their work in any way, it's not about Intercog's ability or our unwillingness to pay them. I'm not sure it makes sense. For the added work up front, it's still a grant application, which is not guaranteed. I think that we can take a lot of the nuances of the project and trying to separate out those properties inside the LMI survey area and those outside of the survey, because they might be, you know, across the street from each other. We don't have to fuss with that if we just make it a local project. The project is still necessary. It's still a good project. I'm not convinced that we should be doing an LMI project this small because of what you see here and some of the added costs that we're incurring.
So if we do the CBG, we'd be adding probably about $40,000 to the project, not necessarily our money, but $40,000 to the cost of the project.
With the administrative
Because of
fees?
wages and then the administrative.
Davis-Bacon. But we're still coming away with 83.6.
Our net on 83.6 is going to be, I'm speculating, I don't have hard numbers, but I'm going to tell you it's
45,000
at best, as far as the benefit that it would provide to the city.
Regardless of how much we pay them or anything. We should be able to do this project, or the analysis very simple. With them and the grant, it costs X amount, and without them, it costs the city X amount. And if it's a positive amount, even if they make $17,000, it's still a positive amount. I mean, I'm not sure we should be quite so concerned about how much they get or whatever. I think, look at it both ways, and
My
make a
feeling is at
decision
the
that
end of
way.
the day, $45,000 of this project is paid for via grant, if this is accepted and we can implement it.
Yeah, and I don't, my concern is the amount of paperwork and what have you. This is not about paying Intercog. They're well worth their money, and I have no issue with how much we pay them at all. So I don't want to get hung up on that. I'm just concerned about the extra work that we put into and the nuances of keeping track of what's inside the grant area, what's outside of the grant area, the ongoing reporting that we have. Is there a net positive number to your statement, Mike? My best guess would be something in the neighborhood of 40 or 45,000 net that we could realize by using the grant. I think it's a positive number. It's just not very big.
So if
Well,
we
I know,
went,
but all
if we went,
projects aren't big.
if we went for this grant and we didn't receive the grant, then we can still do the project as a city project?
We can still do the project as a city project. There's no requirement that we, once we're into this, if the grant is turned down, we can do it as a standard project.
Then, but do we still have to do the wage thing that we are required to do if we receive the
No.
grant?
We only do the Davis-Bacon wage rates if we use federal dollars
Okay.
in
Which would be attached to the
project.
grant.
Are there state dollars available for this?
Not,
Not
state
really.
dollars, not really directly related to this, no. This is more of an infrastructure maintenance project. It's our water system that has faulty valves and not even so much the lines themselves, although we might find some of that. It's primarily valves and valve routing.
Shut-offs and stuff.
Shut-offs, correct.
So well, this is saying 177,242 as a total. But you're saying that the increase in the wages thing is not in there, so that's actually going to be a bigger number?
This is an estimate, but yes, I would tell you that, just using it as an estimate, you add Davis-Bacon to it, and it will be higher, because Davis-Bacon takes a prevailing wage as dictated by the federal government as to what we have to pay for our region. So it's a higher wage than we're accustomed to paying in this part of the country.
I think the legislature a few years ago said that it adds about 10% to their projects when they do state projects.
It could be.
I mean, it's going to be, I don't have an exact number on there. I think 10% is a fair number, although I think it's on the light side, but not trying to throw out numbers, without facts there. It's going to be higher. That part I can guarantee.
So, but if we decide to do this grant, and we know that construction number is too low because it doesn't have the higher wages, will the grant be applied for with the higher amount with those wages rather than what we have here now, when we write this grant?
We could go back and ask Crawford to redo the cost estimate, considering for Davis-Bacon. Thing about Davis-Bacon wages, they can change once every 3 months or once every 3 years. So before a project, you have to do that request, but they could certainly look at, this is the prevailing wage for these types of trades in Buchanan County as of now, and make any adjustments that way. But the cost estimate thing, that's not my expertise.
What are we looking at as far as a timeline for waiting to find out on grant approval?
So water applications are due on a quarterly basis. So the next application is a January 1 due date. We would find out mid-March whether or not the city's funded. At that point, the city could either reapply for the next quarter and just keep doing that for the following 3 quarters throughout the rest of the year. Apply for 1 more quarter, or the city could say, you know what, we want to move ahead with this project and we'll just do it ourselves.
Which opens us up for another issue. Are we going to be able to find contractors that are going to be willing to do a project if we wait until then?
We'll find contractors that are willing to do the project.
But on our timeline?
Well, our timeline, or, it's going to come back to, yeah, we'll do it for you, but you're going to pay
I was gonna say,
our
if you
rate.
pay them right, they'll do any job.
Right.
That's
So
the problem.
the real issue is whether or not we're in a favorable bidding climate. And that's up in the air. Mid-March is close. I don't know if you want to get into May. Now you're getting into traditionally a tougher bidding climate, but really at this point, it's a matter of, we can put it out there once a quarter. We have a time frame to get the project done in. I don't remember what it is.
So the CDBG contract is a 3-year contract that has to get done in. I want to say we're looking at 2020, but the scope of this project, it would probably take a much shorter time frame than that 3 years.
And bidding Davis Bacon wage rate, I don't think you're going to see as much difference on the bidding climate as what we would on a conventional project, because you're already figuring in the higher wages.
Enhancing the wages.
Right. So that's less of an issue at this point.
I see Mr. Brian Crawford's out in the audience. Maybe we could have him give us some insight? Or do you have any insight you want to impart
What question did you want me to speak to specifically?
on the
Davis Bacon?
and the bidding process?
I'm not an expert in the differences in those wages. Like Al mentioned before, most of the costs that we put together they're local numbers. We feel like we're real comfortable with those numbers when we're bidding public work, but not necessarily the Davis Bacon wages. And to Bob Hill's point, he said that he's got some information that said 10 to 12% higher for those wages. It still does come out, as a couple of you pointed out, still does come out in favor of the city. You're still able to utilize those grant dollars, but as Jacob said too, it is on the smaller end of projects, which really in the big picture is a good thing. We didn't find as much that needed to be repaired as we may have thought as we went into the project. So, but I still think it's a win for the city to go ahead with the application, if you're asking my opinion. And at the point when you're awarded the funds, Jacob, can you tell us, is there still an opportunity at that point to move forward with the funding, or to deny the funding, turn the funding back in? I mean, what is the city out by going ahead with the application?
So, preparing the application, as far as, from the Intercog perspective, we don't charge or anything like that, so we'll work with the city and prepare the application. If it's not funded, the city's not out anything. I'm out a little bit of time, but, that's our standard procedure that we have with all cities. So, yeah, we could apply. If it's not awarded, move on, or the city, could also, it would not necessarily be the best practice, but, if you were awarded, you could also decide that, we're fine without it too, if mid-March, if that comes, and that's the decision the city wants to make.
But the costs for the grant administration are only incurred upon accepting or upon award of the grant.
grant.
Correct, yeah, that would only be if the city accepts and signs the IEDA for the funds.
If we're not awarded the grant round one by mid-March and we reapply, is there a certain level of certainty, if you are persistent and keep applying for this grant, that you'll receive the grant? I mean, okay, March didn't work out, so we're going to reapply in March and hopefully June, since it's quarterly. Is there a high likelihood that if at first you don't succeed and keep reapplying, that you will receive the grant eventually?
Yeah, so a few comments on that. They just started this quarterly application process last year, so as grant writers and administrators, we're
Okay.
still feeling it out in the state. They're still kind of figuring
Sure.
out how they're going to do it. Their intent right now and the way they have been operating is about awarding about quarter projects as the year goes out. So they're not front loading all those and then down the road not having funds left. So I would say, if you're not awarded the first time and timing permits, certainly apply, a second time. If you're not funded that second time, I'd look at, well, has anything changed from the previous applications? As far as, if the city's putting more money in or the scope or, anything like that. And if nothing's really changed, maybe reevaluating it. But, that's a really nice thing about a quarterly process. Yeah, if you're not funding this first
Yeah.
quarter, it's not an entire year to find out maybe next year. I
Yeah.
don't know if that answers.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I don't really see a reason why we wouldn't go forward.
Yeah, there's no downside.
There's no downside on it.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we all went into it with our eyes wide open.
Oh, sure.
because In the past, we've done things like this, and then it comes back to bite us. Well, wait a minute, this thing is costing us a lot more than we thought.
Right.
So, I just want people to know.
Oh, you bet.
And that's why I would like to see that on the construction figure, that number includes those higher wages, so we may be asking for more in the grant, but at least that way we're not going to end up it costing us more because we did the grant, was awarded it, and then we find out we have to pay these higher wages and we didn't figure those higher wages in. The city's picking up a bigger tab at that point. So the amount we get from the grant is less valuable if we don't have that in there to start with.
And we can do some research, follow up on what Bob had said with that 10%. We had 110,000, roughly 112,000 in construction costs. We also had a 20% contingency, so we were anticipating about 135,000 for total construction costs. So if you put another 10% on that, you're looking at another 13.5 added to that. So you're pushing that $150,000 project if that 10% number is accurate, if that helps.
And another positive with the grant is, let's say that, because we can't mess around outside the LMI with these funds. I mean, that's a given. We know that. But if we get a $45,000 to $50,000 buffer and something south of 10th Street that connects to the shutoffs there is amiss, or a little bit west of Liberty Trail, we've got a buffer built in that we can, fill in with city funds and do the project to completion, satisfactory completion.
And not to complicate things, but the water department has identified a few things that are just slightly outside of the LMI area. So once we get these prices established on some of these, repeatable items, then the city can also enter into a contract with the contractor that's awarded the work to take care of those while they're in town. It would be outside of the funded piece, but the city could work those additional items in with that same contractor and complete that work in the same time frame.
But we'd also be doing it at the higher wages because we had to do it when we had the grant.
No,
They're not going to do that other section for less money.
Separate contract.
Right, you want to do it under a separate contract, so you're not on the Davis-Bacon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you wouldn't want the same guy, because he's not gonna do it any cheaper, just because it's outside the area.
Oh,
They're already here.
Yeah,
They'll-
even though they're right here, they're still not gonna do it any cheaper.
I think we can cross that bridge when we get to it. I would expect that if we did it outside of the LMI area, we're not paying Davis-Bacon. I won't promise you not paying more than a conventional project. I can't speak to that, but the Davis-Bacon wage requirement is very specific to these federalized projects, and generally, our contractors in this area understand the difference if they're accustomed to doing both types of projects, so.
Even though you can do a grant quarterly, is there a certain amount of dollars that's in that pocket for the year? And they just happen to release it on a quarterly basis? Or is more money get put into it in a quarterly basis that you get?
Yeah, so, in 2017, so last year, the statewide program was awarded 21.5 million. 7 million of that was specific to a water sewer project. And so, within a, give or take a little bit, that 7 million's broken out by quarter, so 7 divided by 4.
We're not limited for how much we as a city can do, are we? Because what I'm thinking of or worried about is, we did this and it's a smaller project and stuff, so we're really not getting that much from the grant. Then something bigger comes up and we need a grant, and we've already used this, so that lowers how much we're available to get the bigger grant.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. The city is only eligible for a maximum of 600,000. But to that point that you just made, receiving or being awarded CDBG funds previously does not at all hurt your application
For
a
future
future
one.
application.
Okay.
So it wouldn't have an effect.
As long as we stay under that 600 number, I mean, is that the max we can do?
Per project.
or-
Yeah, that's the max you could ask for per project.
Per
So,
project, okay.
Typically, generally speaking, a lot of times these are matched more than 1-to-1. So, if it would be a $2 million project and you'd get, like 600,000 or something like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion, information you want? Okay, then I need a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral and written comments.
So moved?
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by
I'll second it.
Kurtz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next is a memorandum of understanding with Intercog. Motion to approve resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with Iowa Northland Regional Council of Governments for administration of the community development contract with Iowa Economic Development Authority.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz, second by O'Laughlin. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next, a motion to approve a resolution granting Iowa Economic Development Authority certain financial assurances in conjunction with a community development block grant application.
So moved.
Motion by Kurtz, seconded by
I'll second.
Hill. Roll call, please.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Motion to approve a resolution approving a community development block grant application designating the mayor as the official representative of the city and authorizing affiliation of signature to said application and certain assurances therein. What am I assuring? This isn't coming out of my pocket, is
Your
it?
cosigner.
If we don't get the grant, you're going to pay.
Then I get to pay for it, is that it? Thanks a lot, guys. Roll call.
a motion and a second.
Oh, I need a motion and a second.
I'll make the
I'm
motion.
Jumping ahead. Motion by Grover, seconded by, can you not speak?
This is voluntary.
No, it's not.
Lenius.
Yeah, I'll make it Lennius.
Make it
instead.
I
me.
don't care.
Roll call.
Lenius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Motion carried. Is this next one still on the same thing we're going through?
Yes.
Motion to approve a contract addendum between the owner and engineer for professional services on the Southwest Water System.
So moved?
Motion by O'Laughlin, seconded by
Second.
Kurtz. Roll call.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lenius.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next, we're down to resolutions. A motion to approve a resolution to file the 2017 annual financial report.
So moved.
Lenius, seconded by
I'll second.
Any other discussion on this one?
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz.
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Next, a motion to approve a resolution approving the 2019 tax increment financing indebtedness certification and authorizing the city clerk to submit the indebtedness certification to the county auditor.
So moved.
Motion by Hill,
Second?
second by O'Laughlin. Does this need any further discussion? If not, roll call.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Moving on, motion to approve the 2017 Annual Urban Renewal Report and authorize the city clerk to submit the report to the Department of Management by December 1st, 2017.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, seconded by
I'll second it.
Lennius. I didn't think you were going to get your name on the in the minutes otherwise. Any other discussion on this one?
No.
If not, roll call.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. New business. Motion to accept the 2016 Street Improvement Certificate of Completion.
I had a question on this. I see we paid Shig Fry $35,000 for the monthly. Have we paid the part of the 1.158 that we own?
We have paid them everything with the exception of retainage. So what's remaining on this is, in essence, by accepting the project, we're releasing the retainage.
Okay.
And we have held this for a significant amount of time for two reasons. One is they finished the project this past spring, but we also added the sidewalk crossing on the railroad tracks on Highway 150 North.
Sure.
Under this contract. So we waited until that was done, and we made them come back to Second Street Southeast and reseed a portion of that project where I think we planted weeds instead of grass, and some of that's been taken care of. It's much better now. I would recommend that you accept the project as completed, and I don't think there's much more we can do with that project.
So moved?
Motion by O'Laughlin.
Second.
Seconded by Kurtz. Roll call, please.
Hill,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Motion to approve an engineering service agreement for the Northeast Stormwater Study with Crawford Engineering.
This is the contract for our stormwater study that we had discussed previously. This is the contract to actually conduct the survey in a fee not to exceed $23,500, except as approved by the owner. I think it's spelled out in the resolution.
So moved.
Motion by Hill,
Second?
second by O'Laughlin. Other discussion? Roll call.
Hannah,
Yes.
Lennius,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Grover,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Kurtz,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. I'm down to reports. Darwin, you have anything else you want to report from the police department?
No, I don't.
Okay. I don't think there's any other department heads. I'm not sure who's hiding out here. Was there any committee reports, council committees that we didn't cover the last meeting?
We covered them last meeting. Hours.
Okay. Starting over with Mike O'Laughlin. Anything you would like to have on this?
The hunting in the city limits passed, I do have some concerns. If we allow these people to do it, others may follow suit. So I'll just keep an eye on it. I enjoyed hunting my whole life and have shot many deer, so, and I understand the concerns. Where I move now, I have more than I had before, and my wife used to have to replace the squirrel corn every day because of the year before, so I understand, and I, can see it both ways, but I just have concerns about hunting in town. I'm just afraid it's not gonna end up happily ever after.
Okay, is that it? Mr. Grover?
Well, I just want to start by saying I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Obviously, I'm still alive, so I consider that a win. I survived our Black Friday celebration. Other than that, that's really all I've got.
Okay. Denny?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Mike L.?
I do. I put in front of everybody the flyer for Pathways, and I'm on the board of Pathways, appointed by the mayor. But Pathways is a good organization that provides a lot of value to people who either drug or alcohol issues. Every year, funding is a big challenge, and this year we decided to do two things. One is to have an open house and invite all the councils from, people from all the councils and others obviously too, from within the county. So myself, Tammy Rasmussen, and Clayton Ort have been talking to and going to some of the council meetings, trying to encourage people to come and also to give more. Some of the cities don't give anything, and they all benefit from it. They have the opportunity for the people to go through the process and, really be better citizens for it. So we're trying to encourage them to give more. Independence in the past has given $1,000, and based upon just some, it wasn't real sophisticated analysis, but the Pathways turned in a request for $2,000 for this next year. Hopefully the council takes a look at that during the budget time and sees what you can do. The other thing is that brings me back to the open house. It's, and for people, watching on TV, if you're interested in it, it's Thursday, December 7th, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. It's located out at the Signs and More building. And I know we have a retreat that day. We should be done, and hopefully some of us can go out and just, meet the people and really support it. Other than that, I don't have anything. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
And one of them's gonna have to be on it next year. Somebody else.
Yeah, it's
What do you meet once a month?
yeah.
Yep.
And it's really only half an hour maximum.
It really does serve a need.
It does serve a need, and we're really trying to get the other communities to at least give something. Tammy actually, I shouldn't tell this story on TV. Tammy went to Stanley, couldn't find the building or the entrance. She looked and looked and looked, and finally she decided, we were only asking her for $25, and she decided to give the $25 herself.
I forgot to get the building to
And
ask
just go home. So Tammy will appreciate that, but that's some of the
That's
stuff we're
dedication.
going through.
The $25 was well worth
Well,
the
she-
time to just.
She said
call
the
it a
streets
day
of
at that
Stanley
point.
were pretty dark.
Yep.
Maybe some people from Stanley will hear this and they'll send money.
And
Who
they'll send
knows?
money to Pathways, yes, or send a check
To
to Tammy.
Tammy.
To
Or send
reimburse
you
her.
emails.
That could be too. Okay,
Anything
that's all, no, that's all I have.
Okay, Deb?
I had nothing till Mike brought this up. Because he brought this up, I'll mention that we have Salvation, the bell ringers at Fairway and Walmart, and have lots of hours to fill for people to bring the money to the community. It stays in Buchanan County, does a lot of great things, so there's a website for it, or
That's what I was gonna ask, is it still Julie that?
Julie Johnson's in charge of it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Bob?
I don't have anything.
Okay. John?
I was out and about today and out by the hospital, we had Chick Fry digging up a whole bunch of street. What's going on?
It was a nice street, we decided to change it. We,
How about a straight answer?
Seems fair.
we had we've had 2 water main breaks over the last week, I would say. This one was a 10-inch main on 17th Avenue Northeast, and apparently it had been leaking for a little while. There's a pretty good cavern under there. They dug it up, they fixed it, but it was a larger hole than we would have expected.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. David?
I'd given some people an update on Carter prior to the meeting started. He's still in Ankeny. He is improving. They're confident in terms of where he's at cognitively. I had gone 2 weeks ago. Heather went last week. He did like a red-green type of thing of, yes or no, and she was able to carry on with him pretty well. Yeah, he can't speak yet, but they're working on his physical progress. Haven't given us a timeline on when he'll be back, so I'd be lying if I gave you guys one, but he's still progressing, and we're doing pretty well as a firm. Appreciate the flexibility you guys have had, specifically with me going here and then Fairbank on the off weeks. Confident that we can meet your needs, and if you guys need anything, just let us know. Thanks.
We just have one meeting in December. Are you going to, that's the first one, though. Are you going to be able to make that one, or are you going to have to be in Fairbank?
I'll check with Fairbank, but we can make something work, whether I'm halftime or something like that. But
I think because we're going to be swearing in everybody that meeting. Anything else on there that think of making appointments for committees? Not sure what else. Second readings on some of these things that time, so. But you can let us know whether, yep.
I got one more thing. I do have.
You had your turn. You didn't have anything.
This is more at the neighborhood level than it is law enforcement. I'd like to compliment Deb and Miller in working with an elderly man in our neighborhood and cleaning up his property. They've worked consistently spring through fall. He's a difficult individual to get along with, but they've had somewhat of a better relationship with him than what some of us neighbors have. And I just like to compliment you all both for cleaning up on the property and helping out the neighborhood. Thank you.
Gina?
The state auditors are here this week and next week, so we're meeting their requests and helping them get the information and the documents that they need to complete their work in a timely fashion. The more we cooperate with them, the cheaper our audit will cost, the sooner they'll get it done and get it back to us to meet our bonding requirements. And we're starting to get ready to enter in some budget numbers and get all of that stuff started off as budget reports are coming in from the different departments now.
And we did have a meeting with the main auditor tonight before. That's why we were a little late in getting in here, some of us. And she may want to talk to some other people. She'll let you know during that time, because she has different people she'll interview or ask questions of, so.
If she contacts you, please give her the 10 or 15 minutes that she needs. It's
Yep.
pretty painless, but she has an obligation to talk to various staff and elected officials. It's somewhat random, but just some general questions about the city.
Yep.
And yes, she knows how to find you.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Did you want to mention your paper that you put on the desk as far as forms we had on our agenda?
Yeah, you guys should have received a brief summary of some of the forms that are due in December. We have other forms and reports due throughout the year, but December is a heavy month for us, so that just kind of hopefully helps you understand exactly what they are. And if you guys have any questions like that, please come forth and just ask us because we're here to help you. I also want to remind you, I can probably still get you signed up, but Saturday is Municipal Leadership Academy, and that will also give you good information on these reports and some of the responsibilities of the city and the city staff, as well as some information on budget too.
What's yours on that, Gina?
It's,
10 to 2.
yeah, in Cedar Rapids.
Do we have an address on that yet?
I can get one, I can look one up.
Okay.
Do you have some people going now?
Yes, I have Hill signed up, and we also have one of the incoming council members.
Okay.
The newly elected council members signed up as well.
Okay. But this particular paper is something you might want to keep because this is something she has to do every year and works on it for several months, and that way maybe it can answer questions or whatever, get a better idea of what she's doing. Sometimes I don't even know what she's doing, but whatever. She's got more knowledge than I got. Al, do you have anything?
I have a couple of things. Remind those of you that signed up, we have the League of Cities budget meeting tomorrow morning at 9 at Heartland Acres, 9 to 3, I think it is. So if you can be there just a few minutes early to get registered. Our retreat is at Heartland Acres on the 7th of December, beginning at 8. I promise, Mike, we'll have everybody out of there by 6.
It's okay. It's not.
Or
far.
earlier.
You say it's right out there on the way home.
Yeah, it's right on
Stop
the way
there.
home. Everybody
Yeah.
can stop.
Be able to stop.
So the retreat, again, is the 7th. We'll start at 8 o'clock, and it'll move along pretty quickly. We are inviting our newly elected council to participate as well. We do offer for our 2 new council members a fairly brief council orientation on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We're going to go through some paperwork, some of our financial reports, give a quick overview, and do an abbreviated tour of our facilities. If any of you want to join us, let me know. But we'll start here at City Hall at 1 o'clock.
That's the
And-
29th, Al?
Yes, yes. And then you talked about the request for the auditors. If they contact you, they just have a standard list of questions to go through, and it's part of their anti-fraud reporting, as well as making sure they do their due diligence and talking to a variety of people at all levels of the organization.
You suppose they'll see some initials from what the finance committee has been approving and want to talk to them to find out if
We
they know what
had-
they're doing?
We had one of the auditors today ask, what does, I can't remember what they thought your initials were, but they weren't your right initials, and we had to
Mine?
clarify. Yeah, they were looking at some journal entries, so they do see those and ask whose they are, so they might ask you questions about that, or know who you are because they've seen your initials and asked us who initials those represent, so.
So it's helping you out. I think it's a good thing. Good.
It's making them happier,
It
seeing
is.
that.
It's a
It
good,
really is.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, and people think my D is an S. I had somebody, and so my grandkids call me Grandma Save Us sometimes, since they can't read my D.
Have we not been dating it?
Sorry,
Maybe
the way
not.
it's going to be. Anything else, Al?
That's all I have.
Did I miss anybody? Okay, I have that I want to let the general public, if everybody's still tuned in, and also I have a form to give each of our newspaper people for some of the appointments I'm going to be making in the next month or so. I'm hoping that there will be people in the community. I have some that have already, because I have been talking about this, that I've been contacted with for some of the openings. Planning and Zoning Commission, there are 4 seats that are up as of January 1 or December 31st, whatever. And I need at least 2 female people to fill that in order to try to keep it gender balanced. Municipal Light Plant Board has 2 people that terms will be up at the end of the year. I need at least 1 female, but it actually could have 2 females because of the number of guys that are already on it, so that could go either way. Library Board won't actually be up until July, but there's a few of them on that. Then I will have people for the Airport Board, since we've made that final reading. I do have several people already, since we've been going through that, have contacted with me. So what I would like you to do, if you are interested in sitting on any of the commissions or boards, to send an email to mayor@indytel.com and let me know what you're interested in. Make sure you give me all your contact information as far as emails, cell phone, whatever. And then if you can give me information about yourself and why you would like to be on this particular board, maybe experiences or whatever case you might get. So I'm very interested in people in the community to do that, and that's why I have information for you two guys tonight before you leave in case you want to do an article that you can tell, because there are different terms. The Light Plant Board is a 6-year term. The Planning and Zoning, it's really set up strange that there's like 2 for 1 year, 2 for 2 years, 1 for 3, 1 for 4, 1 for 5, and all this good stuff. So it kind of depends, but both male and female people who would like to be on these, and then in June or before June, I'll be asking that for the library board also. So please get a hold.
Is Amber going off the Light and Power? Or?
Her term's up.
Her term is up?
Yeah.
So it's her and Jerry or Leon?
Leon.
Leon.
They're the two that are up. And there's only one female on there, but there's already 2 other guys, so both seats could be filled by a female rather than a male and a female. Could go either way.
But the ones on it might
At least
be
one.
interested in staying or not.
What?
The ones on it might be interested in staying on it.
If
or
they
not.
are,
They'll
I'll try and get a hold of them if they need to let me know, or they can send me an email also to let me know that. I would like to get, some of the people have been on there for enough terms or enough years that I'd like to get some new blood, new ideas, new people on some of these committees, just to, otherwise we keep reappointing, and we don't get any new things coming up, so.
Wind up looking like the Senate.
Yeah, you don't need to retire out of these positions. We can replace them. So that's the only thing I think I have. If there's nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
You got her.
That one, I'll see your hand on. Second?
I'll second that.
Second from Grover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Hey, Gina.